This video is part of a series which we've done. If you wish to see the first video in the series about an introduction to risk assessment, then we suggest you might want to pop over and have a look at that first. We refer to the 5 steps of risk assessment. Identify, decide who might be at harm, evaluate the risk, record your findings, and review on a regular basis. So step 1 is about identifying the hazard. So whether we are in an office, a workshop, whatever it is we are doing, we have to walk around the workplace and understand what could cause harm to us in this location. We have to think also about contributing factors. If we do this activity, or if someone else is working alongside us and they do a particular activity, could it have an impact on me or others? We shouldn't focus on the trivial areas, we should concentrate on the significant hazards, the hazards that really can cause the harm. And we must involve everyone that's going to be doing that task or could be affected. There may be a requirement to refer to instructions and guides and data sheets or manufacturer's reference sheets, depending on the task you're going to be doing. Could be the use of chemicals, could be the use of equipment that requires additional guidance. Step 2 is decide who could be at harm. So is it just simply us within my group? Is it myself? We have to also consider, are there additional controls that have to be put in place? Maybe if there are expectant mothers in the workplace or close by where we're working. Are there young people that we've brought into our workplace, possibly on a college placement or young apprentices? These additional people can be at greater risk and may need additional controls for that. We must also consider, are there any visitors, contractors, people that would not normally be in the facility when we are undertaking this task? Are they familiar of what's going on? And could they be impacted? Could they walk into the area we're working in? And the last one, of course, is members of the public that we could be close by to, that may come into where we are working and not be familiar with the work that's in place. If that is the case, we may have to put additional barriers in place. We then look at evaluating the risk. Consider how likely that each of the hazards could cause the harm. Even after all precautions have been taken, it may be that there are still some risk. We have to look at whether that level of risk is acceptable and we can work with that, or whether we may have to decide that it's too significant and we have to stop the activity. We must continue to evaluate the risks. The aim is to try and make the risks as small as possible, of course. But it's important to recognise that not all risks are the same. It's important to recognise that some level of risk to an organisation may be acceptable, whereas to another organisation this may be unacceptable. So we have to think also about the principles of prevention. Try a less risky option. Can we do it a little bit better? Can we bring in additional guarding or controls or equipment that could minimise that harm? Or could we organise our work activity a little bit different, doing it at a different time of the day? And what about any welfare facilities that need to be provided to ensure that if something occurred, we have the necessary emergency requirements for washing, first aid, etc., etc. There are some common problems that occur around risk assessment. So risk assessment is an extremely good methodology, but only if it's used correctly. It is often likely to find risk assessments that have been in place for a long time and have never been reviewed to see if there are any changes. This is one of the common problems, which is a mistake. Another common problem is to think that the risk assessment that has been put in place is always going to be relevant regardless of whether people change in the workforce or not. And this is often, the common problem here is often that an individual undertakes a risk assessment, a operations manager, a service manager, a health and safety advisor, but not involving the people who will undertake the tasks. Not involving the people who undertake the task means a couple of issues here. One, does the health and safety advisor really know exactly what's going on? It's not his role to be doing that type of work. His role is to be giving advice, and therefore the advice should be around the methodology of doing the risk assessment. So he should be encouraging the people who undertake the work to actually undertake the risk assessment, and for them to look at potential hazards, of course providing some guidance and support along the way. But there are many and a multitude of common problems that can happen with risk assessments. The important thing is to recognise these and try to prevent these common problems occurring. The other thing that we have to think about as well is the sharing of a workspace. Often work activities go on, particularly if we think about a building site. We can have work activities going on when there are other work activities, possibly by other companies, happening at a similar time. We could be sharing a workplace location. It could be that the activities they're involved in doing could have an impact on us, and therefore we have to think about that. Should we have a joined up approach, understanding when there are common work activities taking place, that we need to have a common approach and sharing of our risk assessments, so everyone is understanding what the harm is, both from the work that we are undertaking and possibly work alongside us. Step 4 is recording our findings. It's the actual recording of the risk assessment itself. We need to be able to show that the proper checks have been made and that we've asked the appropriate questions of the people that could be affected, and that we've shown that we have handled and dealt with the significant hazards. It is not just a case of documenting the hazards. We have to show that we have taken an assessment measure to minimise those risks. And of course, we have to record this information to show there is evidence of it taking place, just in case something happens. But also we want to recognise that in some cases, risk assessments may need to refer to other documentation within our system. It may be that we need to refer to other risk assessments. We may need to refer to other policies or rules that we have in the workplace, and they may also have lists of other hazards and precautions that we need to be aware of. And last but not least is we must review a risk assessment. We must go through the practice. And the simple reason for that is because things change. Many people within an organisation might say, oh, we still do it exactly the same way as we've always done it. We still do everything the same. But in fact, it may seem like it's the same, but there are always changes. People that are doing it are different. Equipment and tools that we're using are different. Other people working alongside us is different. Possibly the location of where the activity is happening, the environment and what it's like outside, and the weather and the environment possibly inside a location as well could be different. So it is important to look at essentially where our higher critical risks are and put review processes in place. Whether those reviews are a regular review at a set interval, say 6 months or a year, but it is important to also recognise that when a work activity happens, a review should take place at that stage, effectively by the people that are undertaking the work, to see if there is a requirement to do anything dynamic. Anything has changed today, at this moment, when we're about to do this task. Do we need to document that? Do we have to take a step back and maybe do another assessment and maybe identify some additional controls? Or, even more so, we may simply have to stop the job because the risk assessment isn't suitable and sufficient for the task at hand. So it is important that the review step is understood and is carried out. It's also important as well to recognise that we don't walk past. So if we see activity happening that we're aware of, the risk assessment should not allow that to happen. We should prevent that. We should step in where we can, where it's safe to do so, of course, and raise awareness. We may need to provide additional education or guidance to the person that's undertaking the task, or we may have to simply stop the job because we may be aware of other human errors that could be contributing factors to the hazards. And when I refer to this, I would probably think along the lines of another type of activity, another type of training session we do that can provide some guidance around this. This is effectively where contributing factors can come from human behaviours, human errors, and often those contributing factors can be outside of the workforce. So it's important just recognising what those are and putting in place the measures to potentially stop the job or remove the person from the job. It's also important to recognise that risk assessments should refer to compliance requirements. Is there a legal obligation that we need to follow in a specific work activity? Not just an assessment of risk, but something that we must do that's guided to us by the law. And if we're not aware of what that is, we should refer to someone who does to provide us with that advice, whether that be a health and safety advisor, an environmental consultant, or simply going to the Health and Safety Executive's website. So, a risk assessment is a legal requirement. There are 5 steps it's recommended to follow for a risk assessment, and it's a means to an end, not an end in itself. So the aim is to keep people, the environment, and assets safe, and it's not simply just about doing a tick box paperwork exercise. It's about genuinely working alongside the people doing the task to recognise what the hazards are and put the relevant hierarchy of controls in place. If you'd like to see more details of risk assessments in use, then watch the next video where we go through a couple of practical examples of risk assessments for working at height and workshop activities.